Hi, I'm Veronica. We're here to talk about Life by You. I'm going to try to go into a lot more detail than what you've seen normally in these videos. We are going to go through both trailers that have been released so far. First, an actual trailer, the other one's the announcement event. Um, and the reason you can't see my face right now is because I haven't figured out how to get the webcam to record yet. I can have it work on Zoom just fine. I'm still working out the bugs with actually seeing it. So you get to be treated to a static image of this until we get to the videos. Though I will probably be splicing in a few images here and there. Now, next up, when we're discussing this, I want to first go over my own biases here. I had played EA games since I was a child. My first one that I know was an EA game would have been NHLPA 93. Played it on the Super Nintendo. Actually, I was on sort of a vacation visiting my grandfather down in Florida. I was given some money to get souvenirs. Instead of buying an actual souvenir, I insisted, oh, here's a game. I'm going to buy that game. I bought that game, brought it home, couldn't play it till I got home. But that was my start of my interactions with EA. I, of course, did own the original Sim City. I'm not sure if that was before or after, but Electronic Arts had not purchased Maxis yet by that point. And of course, I bought many of them over the course of the years. I bought all of the NHL franchise between 2012 and 2023. Of course, there's ones in between, but they weren't consecutive. I played The Sims when I was in undergrad and college. I did not play The Sims 2. I thought that the characters were incredibly ugly. But I did create buildings, the homes for my brother who did play the game. Sims 3, I did end up actually getting deeply into it and buying almost all the expansions. I think just not the Katy Perry, maybe one or two more near the end. I bought The Sims 4. I started with that. I had the expansions for Get to Work and Vampires. And was not digging it. I enjoyed playing a little bit with the shops for a bit. When that got boring, I went back to The Sims 3. We all know that The Sims 4 was not designed to be a single player game originally. It was created to be multiplayer online, and when that all fell through, they took out all of that. They still had it optimized for people to be playing on really bad devices. And they never quite got things back to where they should have been. They rushed out the product. That's because SimCity 2013 was online only. Even if you're playing single player, you had to be online to access it. And it blew up astronomically as no one could actually access the server at first. So, going on from there, I did end up going back to The Sims 4 maybe 5 years later. I did end up buying a whole bunch of their expansion stuff, and it's really never filled anything in. It's been full of bugs. The bugs never get fixed. It's just constantly broken, and EA doesn't recognize it. But this is something that I went through and I just accepted. Hey, we're living under capitalism. Companies are ruthless. They're all pretty bad. So I went through with it. I bought it. I get disappointed, but hey, at least I have this little bit that works. It's unfortunate, but I was able to break out of that cycle of tolerance. Um, it came with the NHL series. 2021 was the height of what they had for that game. In 2022, they lost a lot. It happens periodically. One of the bad practices of EA is rotating content. They have something, they make it a little bit buggy one year, then they take it out, saying, oh, we don't have time to fix this. 3-4 years later, they add it again. Boom. They try to make it seem like it's something completely new. And it isn't. But 2023 comes out, and I'm skeptical because 2022 pretty much bombed. There wasn't much reason to get that when you already had 21. 2023 had a great advertisement trailer. They came out, they said, you're going to have all these things. You're going to have this game day presentation. You're going to have all these new female faces and hair meshes. Or at least that was strongly implied by the way that it was advertised. They said you're going to have these custom leagues so you can completely control your league and make it however you want. These were all exciting things, and I knew a lot of it they were going to screw up. It was going to be buggy, it wasn't going to work right. And I said, you know, the one thing that really is getting to me, those female hair meshes. That'll be in the game. And I've been waiting for that for decades. The way that it'll actually hang out of the helmet and all that. That is something I desperately wanted. So I went and I paid for it. I pre-ordered it. And no one was honoring returns once the game came out. You could not get that done. And none of the stuff that they said was going to be in there was really in there. At least not any of the stuff I mentioned. You could actually read my article on it at yttribune.com. Stands for the Yellow Turban Tribune. And it actually is right now at the very top because I haven't read anything for that in a good long while. But when it comes to the presentation, they took all the presentation out. It wasn't even optionally there anymore. They just straight up took it out. And they said, oh, this was intentional. All we got were some glitchy few chords of a national anthem, or for 6 teams you had these laser light shows that weren't that amazing at all, and they lasted for a few seconds. This was their game day presentation. And at that, people were not getting them to load except for a handful of times. I think it was 1 in 10 people calculated. 10% of the time you play a game, you get something like this. Even when you're playing one of the 6 teams that had the laser show, only 1 in 10 times did something actually trigger. That is completely unacceptable. There were no new female faces. Everything was there. They did patch some into the NHL 22 version, but they did that before the advertising. So they advertised that they were adding something that was already there at the very best. That's false advertisement. And those hair meshes, you couldn't get them. Even though they're in the game and they can make them available in 5 minutes, they opted, no, this is for HUT. And it's only there so that you could have certain female players that they got the licenses to actually have in the game. It's for them only in HUT. You can't actually use that hair outside. And that was entirely destroying for me. And when it comes with custom leagues, people could not create the custom leagues. You're supposed to be able to create all these years past, recreate the NHL from those years. And there are people who, that's what they do. They recreate the old teams. They recreate the old rosters. And they've been complaining that they can't really do it right for a decade now, probably. They get this. For the first year ever, you cannot, under any circumstances, use number 99. You used to be able to turn that on and off as an option. So if these people try to create the league back during Gretzky's era, too damn bad. You can't create Gretzky. You can't be number 99 because they hard coded this block in there for no good reason. It was never there before. It was just by default that your new league would have 99 retired. You could say, "Oh, I'm not. We're going to turn those off. Those retired jerseys," and they'd be able to do it. They couldn't do that here. There's also the issue that with the helmets. Now they insist for realism, they will not create the option to have helmetless players. It involves taking away a resource, removing that one resource. It's very easy to do, and they do have it oddly online. So if it's unrealistic and I want to do it to myself, who gives a damn? What does it hurt anybody if I have a helmetless player in the game? If I'm the only one experiencing it, there's no harm to that. But yet they allow it online where your helmetless player is affecting the game of other people who may not want helmetless players. So what the logic is there, who knows? It seems to be EA saying, we want you to suffer. That is the only logical explanation for how they do this. And so when you look back, helmets were not mandatory until the 90s. Players didn't really wear them, I think, until like the late 70s. And of course, you have the issue that, you go back, try to create 1908 somewhere around there when the NHL first started, and they're saying you can recreate. No one wore a mask. Goalies did not wear masks back then. That's why you had a whole bunch of them missing teeth in photos. They got hit in the face with pucks. You didn't take slap shots back then, but sometimes it's going to pop up. It's going to hit you in the face. You get injured. You can't recreate that. So it was full of false advertising, and my illusions were shattered. This is not just the normal greed that you see in corporations. It's something beyond that with EA. And so I look back, I look at their other games, they have that same thing. The Sims has those bugs that do not allow it to work properly. For years and years, you would have your Sim be walking around, and then they just freeze. And the only thing you could do is you have to go into cheat mode, you have to reset them, and then 5 minutes later, they freeze again. And it was annoying as all hell. Their fix for that, instead, it seems, the Sim walks off, and does something, goes to the completely opposite of the house, just for the hell of it, that has to walk all the way back. And that's really bad when you have a large home, because they'll walk onto different floors on the far end of the house, and it just slows everything down. Time goes by so fast in the game. It's really distracting. They never fix that bug. You look at Dine Out. For 7 years almost now, it's been out. For 7 years, you cannot set the uniforms for people in the restaurant. You can technically set them, but it doesn't save. And they're just coming in however they come in. That's the end of it. Of course, you have the buggy gameplay where people don't really sit where they're supposed to sit, and they're all moving around, moving to different tables. Everybody's just getting up and talking to everybody for hours on end. When they're supposed to be eating, they leave their food, they don't finish it. People are talking a lot about my wedding stories that just came out and how the weddings don't work. The game keeps getting released with buggy content. EA is unlikely to recognize the issue, and even less likely to actually fix the issue that comes up. They are moving on. What's the next thing we can get people to pay for? They are not offering the products they advertise. And so I am very, very much against EA. As far as I'm concerned, I want EA to no longer be a thing. I want them to pay for NHL 23. What they did there was absolutely unacceptable and deserves punishment societally. I want to see all those investors who made sure they have the executives at the top who are going to be acting that greedily to lose their money so that companies learn if you do that, you are going to suffer. It's not a good thing to be doing that. On the flip side, there are two video game companies I can never say I've been a fan of in my life. The first one I started playing around the same age, when I was 8 or 9 years old. Koei. I used to call Koei as a child, actually well into adulthood, until I realized, oh wait, that's not how you pronounce that. Now that I have some idea of how Romanji works in Japanese. But Koei put out a whole lot of top quality games. You have Aerobiz. I learned as a kid, in fourth grade, that's how I know I was 8 or 9 years old, because in the fourth grade, I was the only kid who was able to draw a sizable map of the world. That was pretty well accurate. It wasn't until after we went through. Did a map before and after, but mine looked pretty much like the world, even though the teacher did pick on it because I colored it all green. This person thinks it's all the same continent. No, I've been staring at the green picture of the map in Aerobiz in that video game for hours on end. I have then Genghis Khan 2, Clan of the White Wolf. That was a great game that I played over and over again. I got really excited when I got my perfect character that had all the right stats, the son of Philip II, and that was super fun. Conquered the world with many different nations there. Liberty or Death was another great one. And you have, of course, Uncharted Waters 2, New Horizons. And that one would be one of my favorites of all time. It was very innovative. And I do want to stress that whether it's Koei or it's Paradox, you need to go do it. Use the engine from for the ships from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. You go put that in there, make a Uncharted Waters game like that, you have the next big hit. That would be the ideal game that I want to see created. That needs to be done. Somebody has to do it. But then finally, I'm going to mention the Romance of the Three Kingdoms series. Because when Romance of the Three Kingdoms 8 came out, and I would have been in college at that point, I believe. I definitely was playing it in college. But if you took all the time I played it, not I played it over a series of this time. If you took all the time I was actively playing that game and laid it end to end, that ate up months of my life. Talk about months. I played that over and over again. Different characters, having fun. I loved Koei games. They got a little bit cash grabby with Dynasty Warriors, creating a new one every year, and they're pretty much the same. And they create all the spin-offs to that. But they really made some really awesome games back in the day when you could not find games like that. The other one that I can say I'm a fan of is Paradox. Around a decade ago would be when I first got my exposure to Paradox. I was going around Steam looking for a new game to get myself going, and I saw Europa Universalis 4. And, it's like, okay, I'm looking a little bit at the pictures, I want to read about this more, and it seemed really awesome. You had a whole lot of control. It had a lot of that Koei design where you have these districts, but they're much more expansive, and you could do a whole lot more with it. You're able to create your own countries and all that. I wanted to go do that. This was so much more customizable. I wanted to try, and I really fell in love with the game. I've grown a little bit tired of it as of now, but this is like a decade later of playing. I think I logged 10,000 hours, so that's also including time that I left it on while I was sleeping and going to work. But did spend a lot of time. I'm sure at least 5,000 of those hours are legitimate playing Europa Universalis 4. They had some great DLC for it. One of them allowed you to completely randomize the new world. So you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know what land is where. You don't know what kind of people you're gonna run into. You may be closer for Asia to get there than it is for Europe. And so I did that. I had a whole lot of fun with that. But then I also got into Crusader Kings, both 2 and 3. Um, and Crusader Kings is probably the better one of, probably the best game that they have out so far. And you can do a whole lot. I'm actually going to be showing you a little bit of Crusader Kings 3 so that you understand where character development might be going with this game. Because I want you to see the characters in Crusader Kings 3. Because this one really got RPG-ish in addition to the strategy compared to Crusader Kings 2. And that was one of their big selling points. They also have Victoria. I've played Victoria 3 recently. That is a fun game, though it's not as fun as the others, if you ask me. I also played the other day Empire Sin. Empire Sin is one of those things that they took a risk at. You're going back to the Capone era of the mob in Chicago, and you're part of all these different gangs, and you're trying to take over the town. I conquered Chinatown just the other day. This is a game that flopped for them. People weren't buying it. They took the risk. It didn't pay out. 2021 was the last update, but it is still a fun game. Their flops are good. It's not like SimCity 2013, where they have such amazing marketing that if it flops, it's got to be a bad game. This was a flop because they took a risk on something new. And I do actually suggest that if you really were interested at all in that game, go buy it. It's you're not gonna be looking at any updates or new DLCs, but it's a perfectly fine working game, and it is a fun game that sort of goes with a D20 system for the combat with guns rather than swords or arrows, and you can have a whole lot of fun with that. I have also tried City Skylines, and of course I've had SimCity before that. That sucked. I got City Skylines, and I kind of felt that sucked too. It's better than SimCity 2013, but it really is not the peak of the series, if you ask me. So I don't go blindly with Paradox. I know when they mess up. And quite frankly, the best game that I have played, other than the one I'm going to mention immediately after, is SimCity 4. That seemed like the peak. You could do a whole lot more. The cities were large. They were truly interconnected. You had to build the road connections from one to the next, and you built out. And you did a whole lot of pretty amazing things there. It did have problems with their traffic. If you looked at the details, it would take people months to get home from work. And that's a serious problem. You couldn't handle traffic properly with SimCity 4. Luckily, the one I'm about to mention basically took SimCity 4, they took the engine, they built upon it, improved it, they took out what the actual intellectual property was. They took out the name, they took out any graphics that may have been specific Maxis or EA owned, and they created City State 2. And it may very well, I don't know what City State 1 was like, but they've created City State 2 for sure. And that's out there, and I'm going to say right now that is the peak of city simulators as far as I've seen. I don't know what City Skylines 2 is going to be like, but that little indie thing that took the engine from SimCity 4, that is the best city simulator I've seen. But Paradox overall, they don't release buggy stuff. If there is a bug, they're going to fix it quickly. That's not something I've ever had a problem with Paradox, and they really stand apart, and they are different from EA because they actually do that. And their DLC always seems to be something that really adds flavor to the game. Every DLC that I've bought from them really added to the game significantly. It usually comes with some sort of free update for the base game that's going to improve the base game. And the biggest complaint I've seen about their DLCs is, why should I buy the DLCs if you're giving so much to the base game? But what's left in there really does add some specific flavor to something in the game that is really, if you really want to focus on that one aspect, that is what Crusader Kings DLCs are for. And they don't have to remake them. They don't release them in 5 different packs. They really put some loving care into it. The only DLC I've ever heard any serious complaints about is the Leviathan pack for Europa Universalis 4. I didn't ever buy it. It didn't really interest me, so I moved on without it. But people did describe that as game breaking, and it took them maybe a year to get things fixed, which is still one hell of a lot faster than EA, which we look at dying out. 7 years later, they still haven't done what Paradox did with that one buggy DLC. So, anyways, Paradox is a company that really stands apart from other companies as far as I've seen. I do think it's probably privately held, even if they may have some shares out. There's going to be a controlling stake that must be owned by some of the original programmers for it, that really just want to put out quality games more than anything else. I don't know if it has something to do with them being Swedish. Maybe the Swedish are less greedy. They do have a better economic system than us. But one way or another, they are a capitalist company that seems to avoid the systemic pitfalls that usually hits capitalist companies. You look at other Swedish companies, like I think Nokia is Swedish. They're still, they operate more like an average capitalist company, but Paradox does not. They aren't perfect, but they are jump ahead of anyone else that I've seen when it comes to how they handle things. So, when I decided I will never purchase another Electronic Arts product again after NHL 23. And so they have The Sims. And there are no other life simulators for The Sims. But all of a sudden we have this onslaught of these new games. We have Paralives, which I don't like their art style. I think it's too kiddie. It's not what I want for what I want to do in there. And let me tell you, the reason I switched from Sims 3 to Sims 4 wasn't the Sims 4 content. It was Wicked Whims. I went there because of what a modder did. That's why I spent maybe $1,000 in expansion packs, because of what a modder did. That made the difference. And I don't want to go have hentai, sexual relations in my Sims game. So I don't want to buy Paralive. So I do think I want to get that eventually for my niece. I think my niece would get a kick out of it. She's only 7 years old. She'll do wonderful things with Paralyze, but that's not for me. I like to see them take the kids market. Then we have Life by You by Paradox. And oh my god, when I learned that Paradox is the one who's putting it out, I got really excited because I love Paradox games. This is the company making the games I really want to play right now. Koei doesn't really make much. I, of course, had the Nobunaga's Ambition, which was a great game, but I don't even think that they'd be able to take on something like a life simulator properly. Paradox, I trust, can take on a life simulator properly. So this is exciting. I saw somebody mention Viva Land, which is going completely multiplayer, and so that would be a great thing for those people who really want multiplayer. And The Sims 5 is going to be multiplayer. Here is an alternative. This is something that's not buggy. This is something you should buy instead of buying The Sims 5. Of course, Paralyzed and Viva Land are both independent producers who are they're crowdsourcing it. They don't have the capital to build the game on their own. They need help. So if you really want that, instead of buying an EA game, go give them your money to help them build that game. But here is Life by You, and this is what I'm going for. It's exactly what I wanted. I mean, within reasonable expectations, this is exactly what I've wanted. And before I show you anything from Life by You, I do want to stress something about it. The graphics here, if you really look at them, they're not that bad. Actually, my nibbling, who I am trying to get on the game, nibbling is a gender-neutral term for niece or nephew. My nibbling is agender, so I use that term. Now they really love the graphics. I wanted them to look at the trailer. They did not play any life. They didn't play The Sims. Their mom wouldn't let them because they didn't want random people talking to them online over the years. I showed them this, and their first comment to is, "I love the graphics." Everyone else was looking and like, "Ooh, the graphics aren't that good." In fact, what you really want to pay attention to, before they gave the EA, what do they call them? The Game Changers. Before they gave them all the trailers for them to look through, they warned them. They said, hey, focus on the gameplay, not the graphics. We know the graphics are bad, and we are going to be working intensively on improving them before the game gets released. So the gameplay is pretty much what you're going to be seeing when you actually get the game. The graphics are not what you're going to be seeing when you actually get the game. So that is something that really needs to be mentioned. And I only know they said that because one, and only one of the videos I've seen, and I looked through probably 100 videos trying to get information, who can give me that little bit more information about this. Looking through those, only one of them bothered to mention that Paradox told them that. And of course, there has been mentioned in interviews and all that they are working on the graphics. They apparently put out an ad not too long ago, or at least not long, around the time that these trailers actually came out. They released an ad trying to get a 3D modeler. I assume they've already hired and started them. They probably haven't radically changed the graphics yet, but they're going to be radically changing these graphics. So before we look at that, you need to have that in mind. And so let's go on, and we are going to look at the actual trailer. And I do want to stress with this trailer, I am going to be pausing periodically because you can see the trailer on your own. You don't need me to see it. You've probably seen it 20 times. I've seen it 20 times. But you're watching this because you want to hear my commentary. And I do have a few things that other people haven't picked out. I'm only going to mention a couple things that other people have. So do try to pay attention here. Now let's get started. We, of course, saw that's open world. That's something that's going to be gone into a lot more. But I'm going to point out something that a lot of other people have pointed out. And this seems to be a theme for what they've been advertising so far. You see them doing laundry. Why are they doing laundry? Because we had laundry in The Sims 3. People loved it. They wanted to be able to do that household mundane chore. In order to get it in The Sims 4, you had to wait many years, and then they sold it to you as a DLC, which they really didn't need to. And so they are really poking fun. Hey, we're not going to bleed you dry. We already have this in the base game. You're going to be able to do this. I have no idea why it's in a bathroom. That seems really weird to me. I've seen where some people have made lots in The Sims where they put it in bathrooms. So maybe this is something that people do normally somewhere. But coming from the Midwest in the United States, it seems super odd to have a laundry room in a bathroom. I've seen laundry rooms. I've seen them stuck in closets, in apartments. I've heard of having a second floor laundry on the home improvement shows. I've never heard of them being inside a bathroom. I don't want to think about this, the poop smells getting on your laundry. It seems a little bit weird. But this is where they placed it. Of course, in the game, you're going to be able to place it wherever you want. Okay, now so here we have seen a whole lot of LGBTQI representation. They are trying to make this a selling point. The Sims, of course, try to come out as being LGBTQIA friendly. Partway through, when they decided, we need more diversity, we're going to make this into our marketing thing. And they really didn't do much, but they did a little bit, and it's something that was needed for the game. And of course, since then, I've had EA moderation on their forums that has been transphobic. I had complained that the only representation given for those female players in their Be a Pro mode, you had to be basically a trans man. You had all the masculine movements. You had the masculine clothing that you're always wearing. You stuffed your hair under a hat at all times. It was really bad. I said, hey, it's perfectly okay to have that as an option. I think that's a positive, but you have to have the actual, feminine option available. I'm sitting here, I'm feeling misgendered when I play your game. You need to have that. I got a ban from them. The post was removed for being discriminatory. You're going to tell a trans person they're being discriminatory by saying, I want to not be misgendered in the game. That is not trans friendly. That is EA. That is the true EA. Paradox, there's no reason to believe that they're faking this. They've had stuff even, you're able to be homosexual in their games that are taking place in the Middle Ages. That's perfectly acceptable. They have whole things around it, whole systems designed around being closet gay with the Catholic Church looking over your shoulder. I don't take this as being fake, but I do think that it's mainly there to try to poke fun at EA and try and say we can compete too. We're not going to be the ones who are competing by trying to reach out to the Trumpers and the bigots and all that. We are inclusive, and we're going to see more on this, on some stuff that people missed. And we've seen the moving car in the background. We see the skateboard. We see the bus. And Rod Humble's going to be talking about this when we watch the announcement event. But one thing that I think that people have been confused on is the public transport. You have the bus there. And there's people on Reddit asking, or at least one person asking on Reddit, can I use that bus? Am I going to have access to that public transport? And the answer clearly is yes. Everything in here is going to be something you can interact with. You can use the bus because you see the bus. You can you can meet the bus driver. You can follow them home if you want to be a stalker and see where they live and bug them and do whatever the heck you're doing. I don't know why you're following a bus driver home, but you can do it. You can become the bus driver. You can get the job, or you can just take over that bus driver's life and drive the bus. And you can drive that bus manually. You don't have to click. You have the option to click and go to specific places. So that is something that is there for you. Here we have our real conversations. And yes, there's plenty of variety. They're going to be going into detail about this in the event. You're going to be able to customize your own, share them, and all that. And there's a lot of people who are complaining, oh, there should be Simlish. That, it's so innovative, it's so great. You can imagine whatever they're saying, whatever you want. The truth of the matter is, there are 3 simmers out there, and I'm throwing out that 3 number. Not because I can point out who those 3 simmers are, but it's true. There's only 3 of them who can actually think this diverse on the cuff, and they're imagining their Sims having these wild conversations. If you're like me, you know what you're thinking? You're either thinking, hey, okay, let me go be friendly with this person so I can be their friend, and that's the extent of what you're thinking. Or you're thinking, chat, get to know, flirt, and that is the extent of what you're doing. Simlish is something created for limitations in the game. Paradox likes to experiment. They like to push the boundaries. They want to do something that no one's ever done before. Because these people who work on the games at Paradox, it's not just the paycheck. They love the specific thing that they are working on. That is the game they want to work on. And so you are going to be seeing this being extended. They are even saying that what they discuss later is scratching the surface of what goes on with this. But you have a lot more control. You're going to know what's going on. You're going to have real relations. It's not going to be shallow relations with people. You're going to be able to tell people, hey asshole, how's it going? That's the type of thing you can do. You can't do that with Simlish. You're not having that kind of... Unless you're one of those 3 people, you do not have the imagination that you're doing that consistently at all. And of course, here we have the shopping. You're actually going shopping. You're actually buying things. You're not going to your fridge and magically you have hot dogs or lobster or whatever the hell you are going to be cooking. Isn't magically in your fridge. You're going to buy it. You're buying clothes here. You're going to be able to actually buy clothes. And so this is why I'm not worried about where you don't see all the different outfits. Categories later on when we get to the character creator. I think you may be starting with one set of clothes, then you get to buy the rest. And it makes it a lot more realistic. That doesn't bother me one bit, so long as we can have the multiple clothing options. And if they weren't planning on it, I can guarantee you they're going to be coming out with it fast, because people are going to be upset if they don't have that. And it's so easy to add. So there's no realistic risk that that's not going to happen. And here we see our little corporate job. And like I mentioned before, all jobs are active. There are no rabbit holes in this game. They're actually doing everything at every single time. And not only are your character going and doing everything actively at all times, every single person in the game is actively doing all the things all the time. These people you've never met, never seen in your game. Maybe you'll play for 10 hours, 20 hours. You'll play through their entire lives. You'll never actually run into the person. They're sitting there, they're using the toilet, they're cooking their own food, they're going to work. All those things are actively happening. This is the one risk of lag in the game, but that's why it's going to require a good computer. And Rod Humble did say you want to make sure that you take these system requirements seriously, because it's going to need that to run the game. But in the end, it's not going to end up being laggy. They're going to get things working properly. And I'm going to go discuss that at the end, what to expect with the launch and all that. But these are all active. You're going to be able to do things in your careers, or you can go play somebody else. You can go play somebody who's still at home. You can play somebody who's at school instead. You can go decide, until they get off work, I'm going to play that guy who's walking by on the street and do something with them. You have that complete control here. Now, if you were paying attention at the bottom right, you can go rewind a little bit if you want to see it. You see all the time there. It's going down at normal Sims rate. And I hope it's going to be easy to alter the march of time there, because it is much too fast. I always felt playing The Sims that you can't really get things done. You can't really sit there and enjoy yourself. You go do something fun, it's over as quick as you know it. You try to get ready in the morning, it takes you 2-3 hours. Not because you're doing a whole lot, but because it takes 15 minutes to walk down the hall. Walk down the stairs takes you another 10 minutes. It's something I've really disliked about the quick gameplay. And in Sims 3, I was able to use NROS. I changed the default to 37 to 7. And that seemed to give me enough time where I felt like I was really playing it. That I wasn't rushed with everything. This is defaulting to the Sims time speed, and I'm hoping we can slow that down without it being too hard. The other thing you notice, you have a day of the week, you have a month and a day. It's June 3rd. First thing, this suggests that we're going to have at least basic weather. I can't say for sure if it's going to rain, if it's going to snow, but we're looking here, and if we have different times of the year, there's going to be a different temperature at some point. You're going to be able to have the ability to have holidays and all that. It's going to be easily moddable if it's not already there in the base game. Somebody's going to mod it. You're going to come in a month after the game is in early access, and you're going to have temperature. You're going to have rain. You're going to have snow. That's going to happen because it's all there and they give you the tools to do everything. I am hoping that they add in a year. And the reason why is, first off, after the early access ends, it'll be at least 12 months from the early access begins on September 12th. So September 12th of 2024 is the earliest that it might end. But at that point, in order to not replicate the problems of The Sims, where every time you have this update in the game, all your mods break. You have to wait 2-3 days that you can't play the game because you are so used to those mods. You can't imagine playing the game without those mods, and you can't play with the mods because it's broken. Once that comes out, they're not going to edit any code that's already been out there. I assume that doesn't apply to fixing actual bugs that are discovered, but they don't want to break the mods, so they're going to not do that kind of editing. In order to do what I really think that a Sims game needs to have, some sort of life simulation game, you are not going to be able to do if they don't add in that year now. And that is to actually go through the decades. Imagine starting in 1920. You're able to choose from the beginning when you create your game. It is 1924. That's when I want to start my game. So you create your player, or you create your first agents here, and you have them going. They have families, and as time goes on, as gameplay goes on, new things start coming out. You start with only 1920s stuff. Oh, here we have 1930 stuff, 1940 stuff. We have television starting to be introduced at extremely high prices, but they're being introduced. These are things I can add. So my players in 1920s, their kids are buying these television sets. Their kids are buying early personal computers in the 1980s, and it goes on and on. You could go back as far as you want, goes forward as far as you want. You just have to have the content. You need to have a hard-coded year there that is going to be in the game. You need to have each item having a year that it gets introduced, so that you don't have things like the top she's wearing right there. You're not going to have that in 1920. Those jogging pants, those would not exist in 1920, so you're not going to have those there. You're going to have clothing items that exist in that era. You could default that to 2010 or 2000, 1990, whatever. Do that with all the items for right now. Even if it takes 5-6 years, you want to have the ability to add that later. So if developers are watching this, and maybe you are, make sure that you add that year and you add that functionality as soon as possible. Especially, it's best if you get it done before you ever have your early access. Because then when people are creating custom creations and mods, they can put the year in that it actually gets created. So that you're not looking at these early things that got created in early access by modders, and they're all of a sudden there in 1930, even though it looks futuristic. You want to get that in as soon as possible. You don't have to do more than that. It's very, very basic things you have to do right now, but you need to get that little bit in right now. Here we have a color wheel. A lot of people got really giddy when they saw the color wheel. We've been all wanting the color wheel. This is something that was in The Sims 3. It wasn't in The Sims 4. It really needed to be in The Sims 4, especially because nothing matches. Now, when we're at that point, it's also important to note every single life simulator that we're seeing coming out is showed off that color wheel. I've seen things for The Sims 5 that are showing off, ooh, they're adding the color wheel again. Of course, Life by You has it because we're looking at it right now. Paralyzed has the color wheel. Vivaland has the color wheel. The color wheel is going to be standard. It's not a selling point for this game, but it is something that they put in because, very specifically because people are thinking The Sims 4 doesn't have that color wheel. This is a selling point over The Sims, but it's only a selling point over The Sims 4 since The Sims 5 is going to have it. Now, there's a lot of other selling points over The Sims 5, including that EA should cease to exist as a company and have zero value. But the color wheel is not that. Here we're looking a little bit at some editing of humans. And this is what the game's placeholder name for their characters seems to be. It's humans. It's not a name that they came up for them. That's just what they're calling them as a placeholder. We know this because Rod Hubbell's calling them agents. They are saying, hey, call them whatever you want. We don't care right now. They don't have an official name. It's just that you happen to have humans in the game right now. A lot of people have suggested LBs. I do not like it. It uses the LBY part of the name, but it makes me immediately think of Big Love. And there was a character named LB on Big Love who was a horrible, horrible human being. Trying to fight with the fact that he was homosexual, but he didn't want to accept it, so he was doing twisted things to try to deal with that. I think he beat the crap out of another gay guy at some point as a way of fighting him, trying to fight his own homosexual urges out of himself. It's really twisted. I don't want to be thinking of that every time I'm looking at this. There's also humans, where you use you instead of Hugh. It plays into the game, but it's really not describing anything special about it. It's something that is maybe acceptable, but I don't like it. I'm going with agents for right now till we come up with something better, because that's what Rod Humble's using. It does seem to have a little bit, an agent is somebody who is working towards a specific goal, and you are having these people work towards specific goals all the time. I had wanted to go into something that we haven't seen yet, and that's that you could just switch to random people as you want. You're basically inhabiting these humans or agents for short bits of time. So I want to go with something possession based. From people I've spoken to in the community, they don't seem to like it so far. One person said it made him feel like a parasite, but I want to use either mounts or vessels, because you can switch between these people as much as you want, and it doesn't bother me because they're not real people. They're not sentient. If they were sentient, this whole game would be a huge ethical nightmare. But I wanted to use that. It doesn't seem popular. I'm going with agents until further notice. But there are a few things we want to see on here. One thing you see, human XP and job XP. This has been pointed out before. You have different types of experience. They asked, what is that? Well, it seems pretty obvious. This is like the satisfaction points in The Sims. So you do things that are general to all humans, you get human XP. So you're going to buy rewards with that are general to all humans. My friendships don't decay. I'm able to mess around in other people's houses without them getting mad. Whatever those kinds of rewards are, those are the things that you're going to buy with that. Whereas job XP you're going to get from working. This person doesn't have a job, so they're not going to have any job XP. But if you have, see, workplace, none. But if you're working at your job, you can get job XP. And that job XP is going to help you with things that are going to involve your job. So you're going to be able to climb up the career ladder faster, or you're going to be able to skip work more often because your boss will let you, your boss likes you more, or something like that. Or maybe you'll get to create better relations with your coworkers at work and grow those relation meters faster. Those are things that are possible with that. What people have not mentioned is the behavior. You can look right there. It says next to behavior, adult default. If you're able to switch this, that means you're going to be able to get people to act a lot differently by default. It's not going to be just their traits. You're going to be able to have them act in specific roles. So you can create somebody who's walks around. You can make a town bully behavior. Guy goes, hits people up, give me your money or I'm going to beat you up, or I'm going to try to steal your girl. Whatever it is, you're going to be able to create someone with that. You can create the adult hermit. They're probably going to create a bunch of them, but we're going to be able to create our own as well. You can also take the adult, tell them to act like a kid. So they're not going to make any meals. They're going to ask other people to do. People who like doing age play, you're going to be able to go act like your kid. Have that be the default behavior. You can theoretically have kids act like adults. And that might be a little bit of a disaster. I can see them starting fires because they're going saying, hey, I'm going to make meals for the family when they're too young to be touching the stove. But you're theoretically going to be able to add some way that they're going to act like adults. Because you could throw that adult default on a kid. That is something that we are looking at in the future. Now we got to the household editor. What are we looking at this household editor? First off, gender is an identity. You have man, woman, non-binary. These have nothing to do with their bodies. This has to do with how they identify. how they feel like they are on the inside. This is telling you what their genes are telling them they should be like. And you know that because below you see body shape. And I've seen people say, oh, you can only have two body shapes. Well, that's all you have right now. And maybe there was some reason for the awe. But those are sexes. That is, do you have that male frame? Do you have that female frame? Because you could be identifying as female and have that male frame and not look quite right. And you can't see me, but you might be able to tell from my voice because I can't do it perfectly. I'm a trans woman, so I don't like doing that myself. I want to look as feminine as possible, but there's going to be some ability to have that masculine look if you think it represents you and it doesn't cause major dysphoria. I can't do that in the game. I make myself look more feminine than I actually do because I don't want that dysphoria. I don't want to be looking and thinking, "Ooh, I don't like that." I want to live that life that I've been trying to get, not what I'm actually living. You're going to be able to do the same thing where you have that female frame, but you're going to be dressing like a man and all that. That's there. What's not there is the intersex, where somebody is both, has both male and female organs. That's not there. And we can tell that the attraction system is based on how people present to the world, not based on their genitals. But moving on, we do want to also mention the personality traits here. And you have a whole bunch of them, and they're color-coded for different types. I know from other things that we've seen, the blue ones have to do with your background, your childhood. This particular agent was brought up in a rural area and had a happy childhood there. And those are going to impact how she relates to the world, what she does, how she talks to other people, how she reacts to how they talk to her. Then you have, yellow, genius, and wily. So we seem to have some sort of mental traits here. Orange, we have dramatic, which seems to be maybe more of a personality trait. Purple, it's not purple. I'm looking at pink. There is a purple we're going to go into. But we have the pink one, cultured and active. You can kind of get a gist of what kind it is. I can't put at the top of my head exactly what kind of trait that is, but that's going to have something to do with how they act, what kind of activities they want to do maybe. They want to go to the opera and work out afterwards. That's what I'm getting there. Then we have our purples. They're messy and they're fickle. So maybe these are some of the more personality flaws, but we'll find out more. They're going to go into that before release and give us a lot more detail than I can get just by looking at it. We also do have the pronouns in the top right, not the very top right, which we're going to next, but top right. You have she, her. It's obviously going to have he, him, they, them, at a bare minimum. You may have the customizable. Next, we have their money, and this is the same thing that they used in City Skylines. I don't think it was ever given a name. We have a cent sign with 2 slashes through instead of 1. So I'm going to call him Centaria for now. I think the community needs a name for it. It's sort of Latin, and cent is a Latin root, and we have the cent sign, so Centaria works fine. Let's just get some conversation going on the ideal name for that. But we'll move a little bit further. A little bit too far. And here we are, and we are out. We actually have something I didn't mention there before that I do want to mention. We have age. It is a number. That is something that could be huge. Because they do in a different game that you're going to be seeing, Crusader Kings 3. They have those numerical ages. And those numerical ages have to do with gradual aging. and them getting different ages. They have already told us they have different heights. There's a height slider. You can make that same 19-year-old different heights. They're going to have different heights for different ages. So even though you do have these life stages, this person's a kid, this is an adult, this is a baby, this is a toddler, I think that that's going to be for a large part just there to help people get a feel of it. I don't think it's going to have much functionality because we have those ages. I think we're going to be looking at gradual aging. So your characters year by year is going to look a little bit older, a little bit older, a little bit older, till they max out at 75 and stay that way until they die. Which is a little bit earlier than actual humans, because actually age 90 with real humans that we stop aging. We have the same chance of dying each year at beginning at 90 as we did the year before. We have a higher chance each year up to that point. But it plateaus at 90. This game will plateau at 75. Here we are, and we are looking at a lot with our characters. This is where we're going to actually edit things. We can edit their bodies. See, not just two body types completely. Those are very generic frames. You're going to be able to edit all those little things. How thin you are, how fat you are, what your height is, the length of the arms I've heard, the size of the chest, the musculature, all that kind of things are going to be in there. Head, face, we're going to be able to edit how the face looks. Of course, skin, I imagine we're looking at another color wheel there, so we can get fantasy colors, but we can also get whatever shade you want. You're not looking at the pre-made stuff that The Sims had, because they want it to be online. And I'm wondering how much of that you're still going to have because they want The Sims 5 to be online. Now, you have, it's going to cosmetics and wardrobe. You can edit the personality. We want to move just a little bit further. Oh, here we are in our wardrobe. There's full body stuff, but you also have tops, bottoms, outerwear, underwear sign that we've been missing. But notably that outerwear, that means that coat there is over the t-shirt. This is something that's been missing from The Sims that really needed to be there. When I got my seasons pack, my first thought was, oh, what am I going to do for cold weather? People are going to be wearing turtlenecks. They're going to be wearing the long sleeve shirts constantly. You have to make sure you have some sort of, you have the long jeans on as opposed to, wearing shorts. But then that's what they wear outside. It's not what they wear indoors during the cold weather. It's what they wear outdoors. So you really need coats and whatnot, which I don't do, but that's what you need. It'd be nice to just say, hey, here's a coat that I'm going to throw on when I go outside. Here's the gloves I'm going to throw on when I go outside. That's all stuff that's going to be nice to have separately. And if we also notice here, you have all these different styles. These are realistic styles. These all seem to be things that I could see a real person actually wearing in the real world. Whereas you look at The Sims, what kind of clothing do they give? They give you some high fashion stuff that's not meant to be worn by real people. Or worn by real people, but not in everyday situations. It's what they wear on runways. They're, artsy, and look, I can have them wear a bird's nest. Isn't that great? I have this beautiful model, and they're wearing a literal bird's nest with birds' eggs in it and all that, which I have actually seen. I use it when people are trying to say, oh, male jumpers, it's the new fad. No, it's not the new fad. No, you've never seen anyone wear a male jumper. That is runway stuff that people do that is ugly as hell, and that The Sims decided that's what we want in our game, not what real people wear. And it really gives you an idea. That is a sign of how EA is out of sync with regular people, because regular people do not wear that weird stuff that they have all their people wearing. And you have no option but to wear that or download a bunch of custom content, which is why custom content is so vital to their game. But here we have a whole bunch of stuff. You can edit the color wheel. I imagine there's going to be some sort of pattern here, though I don't see it at the moment. Okay, now here we are looking at our live edit mode, our town creator. This is allowing us to throw down pre-made lots, stick them there, and of course we can edit them afterwards, but you're able to just throw them down, and you're going to see they're going to be able to move it right across the road. You can move that wherever the hell you want. It's not like The Sims 4 where you have these predefined lots and they are too small and, oh, we created 64 by 64 lot for this world, but oh, we already put a family in it, so you can't have it. That's the sort of thing that The Sims loves to do. This is not what you have. This is going back to The Sims 3 where you can edit it, and it seems to be a lot more maneuverable. I do want to see some stuff change with the UI here, because I want to actually see the actual houses. I want to see what they look like before I try to place them. Because just going, I don't know at beach public restroom piece number 1 and number 2, what's the difference? I have no idea. I do want to see a little bit better with the UI there. But we might be getting that anyways. It may be that there's something later on that you're going to see that wasn't done to these that might end up being able to be done to them all. And I might be complaining about nothing. But if I am right and we're not able to see that, that's something that you want to work on with your UI paradox. Get that updated so that we can see what things look like. And we're going to let all these move through before we start talking about what they actually are. Because I have a good idea of what a lot of them are. I have some ideas that might be questionable, but a lot of people just start reading them off and asking, what's that? Let's try to give some answer to what that might be. So we'll stop at the end. So, going into what those things actually are going to be, first thing is the conversation editor. We're going to see a whole lot more on that, so I'm not going to go speculate much. We have event creator, which might have something to do with parties or celebrations, funerals. You also might be able to do some fun things later on, especially once some people start modding in violence. You might be able to have celebrities come. You may be able to have plane crashes. You may be able to have meteors crash. You may be able to have aliens land and make first contact. Those are things that you might be seeing in that event creator. Item creator. These are obviously going to be objects that you see in the game. I don't know if it's just going to be the ones in your inventory or if it's going to be the ones that are in your lots as well. And there's reason to think that they might be separated, and that's because our next one is shop creator, where you're going to be able to name what's sold in shops. You're going to be able to have different types of things sold in different shops, as well as similar things. Maybe two shops agree on 90% of the stuff. You could set two different types of, or two different patterns for what's being sold in two different shops that might be competing with one another. And they may share 90% of the product and 10% of it is unique to that store. That's the kind of thing that you might be seeing with the shop creator, which was put in between that and the object creator. Now, object creator might just be those larger things that are in the lots, but it also could be something that's a lot more exciting. Because if we have that all in the item creator, this might have something to do with object-oriented programming. And why would they name something like that? It seems obscure. Well, these are programmers. They are well acquainted with object-oriented programming, and they're going to be able to explain that a lot better than I can. But you start with variables are the first thing that you have in a program. So you can have, x is equal to this, height is equal to that, name equals this. Then next step up is structures. Structures are basically you have one item and they have a whole bunch of different variables that are connected to it. And above them are the objects. And the objects have everything the structure has plus internal functions. So you can say that variable dot run this with the little parentheses and it does that particular function on that variable or on that object as a whole. So those that is that progression up to object. So I'm thinking you might be able to do things like we saw the human XP, we saw the job XP. That's why I mentioned it here, or mentioned it earlier so I could bring it up here. You might be able to add in things like vampire XP for vampire characters, which are going to get their experience by doing vampire type things. And they're going to go and spend those experience points on vampire related traits. I'm going to be able to be better at sneaking or whatever that is. Or you can do it for beach bum XP or whatever you want. You might be able to go add blood sugar levels to them, so that is something that they need to keep managed. And so you have diabetic agents wandering around. That's something that might be possible. You might be able to create a new variable for how dusty each object gets in the home. So it builds over time and you have to dust it. That is something that you might be able to do with the object creator if I am right that it has something to do with object-oriented programming. I could be completely wrong, and maybe they're going to create it because they heard about it. Who knows? But we'll find out in time whether I'm right or wrong. Next, you have the mod creator they mentioned. Now, with all these other things mentioned, like these are all, in a sense, these are mods as it is. So what is the mod creator? I think it's going to be something that's going to be like a zip program. You're going to be able to go in and take all these disparate elements that you created and make them into one file that you're able to share with the community. So you're going to have that one, it's like a package file or a pack file in The Sims 3 that you can share being created by the mod creator. That's what I think it most likely is going to go to. Next up, career creator. With this, you should be able to create your own jobs. You're going to be able to edit the existing ones, define the hours for everything, all that. That seems pretty self-explanatory until we actually see the actual editor itself. Quest creator. This one is kind of cool, and we do have some explanation in interviews. Rod Humble had said that the quest creator, has to do with the way that challenges are actually done when people play The Sims. They don't look for the challenge of surviving and building money in itself. They create their own little goals that the programmers never thought of, like the 100 baby challenge. So you're going to be able to create, if it hasn't already been created, a quest where you have to have 100 babies. And you get to define what the steps are getting up to those 100 babies and what you get at the end. You also saw earlier where I didn't pause on it, but you have the woman gardening in her front yard. Weird place to garden if you ask me. I always thought that's supposed to be a backyard thing. But She was gardening, and it said in the corner, plant four seeds. That was the first step. That seems to be a quest. That sign that you're able to create things for using that quest designer. Or quest creator, rather. Next, you have the script creator. What's the script creator? Well, they mentioned elsewhere that they created their own script for the game. And you may be familiar with stuff like this for other games that get modded. You're able to go in and use that script language to say that this becomes this. It's like a programming language in a sense. It's a programming language that is going to convert into the executable language, but it's limited by what is actually in the game. So you're not going to be able to create too wild of things. For example, I hope that you're able to not create telemetry, because that's something that they specifically kept out of the game so that you are not monitored with anything that you're doing. But that is what the script creator is going to be, more or less. Gameplay creator is going to be some other sort of gameplay elements. I'm not 100% sure which gameplay falls under gameplay elements. Maybe you're adding needs or taking them away, or my voice is going here, but let's try to get through this. You're also, maybe there's going to be specific goals that you're going to add in. It's going to be something that's not involved in these other creators, and this is something that we're really going to have to see what they have in mind before we're going to have any good idea of what it is. Recipe creator seems to be pretty straightforward. You have new foods. You have you're going to be telling them what you need in order to create it, what are the steps of cooking it, what ingredients, all types of things like that. Skill creator is another thing that's pretty straightforward because we know what skills are. We are familiar with skills being added to the game. I plan on modding a lockpicking skill for vampires, and I'm also hoping that I'm able to customize for those vampires skills that only they can use. So it's going to have to do with them using their vampire powers. Why did I create a lockpicking skill for vampires? Because I want them to be realistic. I want them to be Sims 4 cartoonish, where they go lift in the air and push open doors. I want them to actually have to sneak in, lockpick in the door while people are sleeping, and bite them in the night. That is something that would be interesting gameplay to me. That's what I plan on creating, and the only thing that's going to be able to stop me is if I can't do the vampire specific skills, and it'd be really weird to have regular humans going around learning how to hypnotize people and stuff like that. Now, next up we have our trait creator, and this seems to be pretty self-explanatory too. You have traits. We're familiar with traits. You're going to be able to create your own traits and have their own effects. This should all be in that trait creator. Then you have a crafting creator. I'm sure we all are familiar with craftables. You're able to paint paintings or sculpt sculptures or carve things in the workshop, or you're going to your workbench and you're inventing little trinkets. Those are things that are craftables that you're going to be able to say. Collectible creator, another thing that's fairly straightforward. Things that you're going to bury and be able to find out in the open world. I assume it's going to be like The Sims 3, where there's going to be an area where different possible fluctuations of what might be there will end up popping up. That is something that you're likely to see there. With the collectible creator, outfit creator, I think this is going to have to do with adding new outfits that random people, new created people are going to be able to wear. And maybe it has something to do with crafting the clothes themselves built in there. But mainly what I think is going to be the big thing is, if you're familiar at all with The Sims 4, you know that I guess they call them townies. People who they used to be called homeless Sims in The Sims 3. They walk in and they're wearing absolutely outrageous things that don't match. Anything that you have that is custom content, they will mix and match no matter how weird it is. And it's almost as if they know how weird it is because they pick the weirdest things. I had downloaded maybe 50 different sets of nails. Not 50, more like 20. But the creator always seems to pick the weirdest ones, the ones that are really long that I download from one specific sim. That's the one that they want to put on all the townies. You have a robe that's meant for nightwear, but the person who created it said didn't put in all the categories. So it's creating people who are coming out and they're wearing this weird form fitting robe that actually changes their body mesh, mind you. That's what they're coming out with. This seems to be saying, hey, let's pick very specific things that we're saying are okay. And there's going to be, I'm sure, a whole bunch of pre-made outfits that match and make sense that townies are going to be able to wear. These randomly created agents are going to be already wearing outfits like that. But you create a new outfit, you download some CC. Hey, I really like this shirt. I want to see random people wearing it. You're going to be able to create your own outfit that they're going to be able to choose from randomly. And that's what I'm expecting to see out of this outfit creator. Household creator, we already saw the household creator. We have a good idea of what's there. There's not much sense in guessing on that. Next up, we have the story creator. And I'm expecting this to be like Enros. Enros had a story mod, story progression mod. People get married, they get divorced, they have babies on their own, they die, they change jobs, all those different things that they do. That's what I'm imagining you're able to edit with the story creator. That seems the most likely thing. And the very last one, the one that didn't last only 3 frames, and when I was trying to write down what these things were, I was checking. These other ones are lasting for like 3 frames as text on the picture. This last one lasts a long time and it ends and it fades out with it. What is the life creator? I've heard a lot of YouTubers ask. What is it? It's the game. Life by You is the life creator. That is what it is. Not a separate thing. They wouldn't be leaving it in so much longer than the rest if it was some special separate creator. This is the whole game. You're able to create a life. You're able to make things the way you want. What this game is about is freedom. The freedom to create what you want, to play the game you want to play, and nobody's going to be able to judge you. That's part of why it's not multiplayer. It's single player. It's been confirmed that way, and it's so that you are doing and actually doing what you want to do. Rod Humble had mentioned in an interview that what people were doing, they did some playtesting for The Sims before, and they had people go there and they asked them, well, what did you do while you were there? And all these guys would, be sitting there. Oh yeah, I killed a whole bunch of people. I tricked them in the pools. I walled them in and all that. And they were able to see, but this bathroom's been changed. So, this is what you were really doing. You were actually doing this. They don't want to admit to it. And if you have multiplayer, they're gonna be walking around and killing people or doing whatever that social group expects them to do. They're not going to be really living what they want. They want it there. They also don't want any telemetry. If you play The Sims 4, there's a whole lot of things they know. And if we look at the picture here, because I'm sure I'm editing it in, there is a whole bunch of things that The Sims knows that people are doing in their games because it's sending the information back to EA. This is what people are doing in the games. I'm sure no one's actually watching every little thing you do, but they probably know what custom content you have on your in your mods folder. If you have Wicked Whims, chances are EA knows you have Wicked Whims and you're playing with it. If you have a mod that's specific that allows for gay characters, which I guess it's in the base game anyway, but if you're playing it, they may know that you're playing as a gay character. And as Rod Humble mentions, if you're in a country that is not legal, EA can rat you out. Maybe they care less about you than they do about keeping that country happy, because maybe that country's going to say, hey, if you don't tell us this information, we're going to ban The Sims from being sold in our country. That's not possible with Paradox's game. So it is very much about freedom. You can do what you want. Nobody knows. And so let's move on. We're going to look next at their event announcement, where they go into details, and we actually hear directly from some of these creators. And I really like it. And part of what I really like about it is that they are not very good at it. I'm not saying the organization is bad. It's that these are not people who, if you watch an EA event, they get a bunch of people who have a whole bunch of PR training, media training. They know how to talk to the camera, and they're able to manipulate you and say things just the right way to hook you in and psychologically manipulate you. The only one who might be able to do that is Rod Humble. The rest of them are. Rocio seems to be fairly natural, but she's still clearly reading off of a script. A lot of the others are a lot stiffer, and it reminds me of watching NASA TV, which I can't really watch NASA TV very long. But these are actual experts who know what they're talking about, and they have no media training. And so, Rocio seems like a cheap training video from work. A lot of the others look like they are not comfortable in front of the camera, and it really does give a charm and makes you realize they're not manipulating you when they show you this, because they don't know how to manipulate you. These are people who are really good at creating games, and that's what they're showing you, and they are proud of what they're showing you. Alright, now let's watch the actual announcement event. Of course, I'm going to be pausing this as well to discuss specific things as they come up.
Hi everyone, I'm Rocio, Community Manager at Paradox Tectonic. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the Life by You announcement show. First off, be sure to drop all of your questions in the chat throughout the show. We will be collecting them and hope to answer them in the coming weeks and months. Where can you find those answers? On our social channels, at lifebyou_PDX, and we hope to see you there. For our show today, we have some team members who are here to show you different gameplay features, a brand new trailer to show you some more of Life by You, and finally, which you might be very excited about, how you might be able to play Life by You. So be sure to watch until the very end. You might have been asking yourself, who is Paradox Tectonic? Paradox Tectonic is an experienced game development studio comprised of game industry veterans, life sim players, and gamers from all diverse backgrounds. We have been hard at work on Life by You, a game you might have heard about if you're here. Before we get to talking more about gameplay, let me introduce you to the GM of our studio, Rod Humble. Rod?
Thank you so much, Rocio. Life by You is a game that emphasizes freedom. It's a life simulator where you get to create your world, your way, and we're going to talk about all the features.
Yes, right here, that is the central theme of what they are doing with Life by You. It has to do with freedom. It's all about having full control, doing whatever you want. No one is watching. You can mod to your heart's content, and they are very much encouraging mods. In fact, I know that they said in interviews, or at least Rod has said in interviews, that while they have nothing there started for anyone to do anything with violence or death, they are very much setting up the paving stones for the sex mods. That is the most popular kind of mod that you're going to find in The Sims, is going to be having sexual relations. And so that is very much what you're going to be seeing coming out in the modding community. They are not going to release it themselves. They don't want the hassle that comes with, but they do want, specifically, they want modders to make that part of the game. And so they have some basic assets. You can remove the censoring bar on your own. I think that's just simply an option. It's not something you have to do anything complicated for. And they already have nudity already in. The rest of it, of course, is going to require modders actually doing it. The big name company doesn't want to be known for doing that themselves. But everything else is fair game. You're going to be able to mod whatever you want to mod into the game, at least within reason. Like I said before, I'm hoping that no one's able to add telemetry, which is something they specifically kept out of it. But you're looking for anything that's a legitimate game feature. You should be able to add that in some way, shape, or form. The only thing I'm thinking that would be a limitation is what I described earlier with time and needing years and having everything specifically marked to allow time progression, actually having society move through time. But let's get back on until I have to skip through the trailer we already watched.
There's a lot of depth coming up, but first, why don't we just show you the trailer?
Yeah, let's roll the trailer.
Well, that didn't take long at all.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun.
That was so much fun.
The dev team, we all made that trailer together. So we played the game and we captured footage and we put it together. Life by You, as I hope you'll have seen, is one of the most moddable and open life sims.
Yeah, and I think that's actually one of the things the community has been asking about the most is how open is this game? Rod, I think you're one of the best people to speak to that. Would you mind telling the community a bit more?
When we started making Life by You, open world was the center of our game design. And that's because Life doesn't have any loading screens, and we didn't want any loading screens either. So we wanted you to be able to move around your world and change how you play anytime you wish. So for example, if you've made a household and one person's at home, maybe cooking, one person's at work, one person's down the beach socializing, you can swap between them anytime. You just click on their portrait and the camera will pan. There's no loading screens between buildings, between the world, or at all. You just move it around. In addition, when you do select somebody, if there's any non-player characters around, you can take them over if you want. If you decide, I want to play their life for a while.
Yes, this is why I thought vessels or mounts would have been the perfect name rather than agents, humans, LBs, etc. Because you are able to just jump in and you're inhabiting the life of a completely different sim, or not sim, agent at any given time.
Or permanently, you can take them over, all of their memories, their relationships, their loves, their hates, their possessions, all of it is stored and they're playing by the same rules you are.
Now, I think we need to focus on what was just said. I don't think that people really have absorbed in the gravity of what was just said there. If they're playing by the same rules you are, that means that this AI is completely fleshed out. They are not able to rely on little tricks and gimmicks where you go somewhere and there's randomly certain people there. You're not able to have, let's have their needs already being taken care of. We're going to cheat that. They are going and they have to do all the same things you do. The very fact that you don't see what you see in The Sims, and I'm going to be straight out with it. I play all the time. My focus, I play one person. That is my little avatar. That is who I am in the game world. They may have a family. I don't like to do much with the family. Let the family do what they're doing. I'm interacting with the people living in the same home as me. If you do that in The Sims 4, what I invariably find after a day or two is that these Sims will be sitting there, they're hungry, they're tired, they need to go to the bathroom, they need to be washed, they haven't had any fun, they haven't been socializing with anyone, maybe they just spent the entire time trolling on forums, because that seems to be the one thing that they all love to just jump and do. No matter what else you put in there, they're either playing a game on the computer or they are trolling forums. Inevitably, you are finding your Sims in the family in a state where they have passed out, starving, and they have soiled themselves on the ground. They are in a horrible state where good luck trying to get them back running and operational again. Did you see that in the trailer? Are you going to be seeing that anywhere here? No. These Sims these agents are able to take care of themselves. That is something that's been missing. You have a fleshed out AI. You are going to be able to do any job, hang out with anybody. Once again, this is something that potentially can cause lag. It's why you need the higher grade system. But it means that you're going to have realistic working gameplay. It's not going to be a giant bug fest. This is so different from The Sims in that they are actually working and developing. And they're saying, hey, let's not find the cheats. Let's make the AI actually work so that people are able to have fun playing their game without having to worry about fixing our bugs for us by fudging this, fudging that, etc.
Finally, there's not much point in having an open world unless you can really enjoy it and explore it. And so we've got a whole bunch of transportation options. I love cars, I love skateboards, we've got those in the game. We've also got motorbikes, you can jog, you can bicycle, go anywhere that you want within the open world. In addition to that, you can click to move, so you can click anywhere you like in the world, and then your agent will drive there or walk there or jog there, or you can activate direct control mode. You can personally drive by pushing forward either on the arrow key, or if you want to plug in a controller, you can accelerate and deaccelerate.
Yes, this is giving you direct control. You're going to be able to be there in first person, walk around, you can stare at the beach, you can drive yourself around. Everything that you want to do to actually experience the world is right there. And of course, we're all wondering, when you're able to drive yourself, are you going to be able to actually run people over and things like that? Obviously, you're going to be able to go off-road, but is there something there that's actually going to force you to do that safely as opposed to just moving around? Now, we know that there are no actual deaths other than of old age for right now. This has to do with them worrying with COVID, that people were not in a position where they would want to have their agents, dying on them, having all these unfortunate events that people did love in the Sims games. I'm sure that kind of stuff's going to be modded in soon enough, but that is something that even if you don't have that, once it gets at, are you able to hit them even if they are not able to die from it, even if they're not able to take any serious injury? I think that's something that we really do want to know.
A lot of fun driving in our world. You can also walk using direct control like you would with like an action RPG. It's an over-the-shoulder camera. That feeling of freedom really helps explore the open world and enjoy all of the variety that you find within it. So when you see anywhere within the open world, like top of a mountain, the woods, the beach, you can just go there and you decide how you want to get there. You take your transportation of your choice. And of course, it being an open world, we want lots of things to do. And so we've added spawnables and collectibles. We've got a whole editor that enables you to add your own. But by default, when you load up the game, you'll see that we've got seashells, archaeology, a whole bunch of spawnables out there for you to discover and collect. So that's what we mean by open world. It really is all-encompassing. And all of the game systems use open world. None of it uses rabbit holes. It's all running all the time. And it's not only open spatially, it's also open in terms of time. You can time skip forward a decade if you want at the click of a button. So that's what we mean by open world.
Now, that is one of those things that makes me wonder, who was asking for it? I cannot think of anybody who would be asking the ability to skip a decade out of nowhere. This is really them thinking outside the box. Of course, you don't have to use it if you don't like it, but this is something that's there. So let's say, for example, you have yourself, you got out of the toddler phase, the person you're focusing on becomes a child. You just happen to not like playing with children. You can skip a decade. That 6-year-old becomes 16. You got a teenager. You're able to do, skip that phase of life that you're not interested in for whatever reason. Or I'm sure there's plenty of other uses for it. I'm not 100% sure why, other than them testing the boundaries. They are trying a whole bunch of things, giving us things that would have never been thought of with The Sims. If it's not being demanded, they're not going to put it in. Nope, when it comes to Paradox, they want to see what they can do. Are they able to come up with reasonable expectations of what has happened in 10 years in that short time span, which very well may be used for one thing or another coming up.
Open in terms of space, in terms of gameplay, in terms of game system, and in terms of time. And we really hope that you're going to like it.
Thank you so much, Rod. That was really, for me, informative as well. I think one of my favorite things is that you can control anyone at any time.
Thank you, Rocio. Yeah, it reinforces the sense of freedom
Yeah.
that we wanted to give players.
Yeah, absolutely.
There should be no barriers and no friction between the kind of game that you want to play and the kind of world that you want to create.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of creating, we have a lot of builders who are watching right now. And I think you'll be excited to see our next segment. We have our senior game designer, Hannah, who's actually going to walk through some of our build tools.
That's how exciting.
All right, let's see.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm a senior game designer working on Life by You, and now I'm here to talk about the lot and region editor tools. The lot editor tool allows players to create and edit pre-existing lots. This means any lot from the beach to...
Let's go back just a second. Now, I really don't think this fits into build mode. This is not what people are thinking about when they're teasing, hey, we're about to talk about build mode. But there are some interesting things about what we're looking at here. First thing is that the lot sizes are editable. So if you want to add a little thing on, you're able to have this small little area as your home. And you're able to expand it over if you want to add that expansion onto the lot. And so you're not eating up the entire thing as a lot. You can have one little lot thing here, and then you have another one there. And there's reason to believe that you're going to be able to own multiple lots in the same area. It's important to notice that there is no terrain underneath that. Why is that important? Because that means you're going to be able to just simply port it out, take that and move it over to a completely different area, and it's going to blend in naturally, seamlessly with the environment around it. And so you're not going to see that weird thing where you have different colors of grass, or, hey, my lot is full of grass, but it's all sand around it. None of that sort of thing is going to be there normally. You would have to make it happen if you wanted that to be the case. Assuming that you're able to do that, I assume that you'd be able to mod it in even if they don't give you terrain flooring like The Sims does. We see where it says choose icon, and that's where I was saying I think that I might be incorrect in thinking that the UI is going to be bad, because it looks like that does not have a chosen icon. If you're able to choose an icon that's basically a picture of the house, that UI might look a whole lot better than I'm expecting it to be. You see where there's an option for a home workplace. That suggests to me the ability to own multiple lots, because you're able to have one lot there, and then you could have something out towards the front of that lot that's a separate lot marked as the home workplace. So you're just walking over there in the morning and that's the end of it. I definitely am hoping that these also are able to be placed directly next to one another, so you're able to make continuous fencing blocking some stuff off if you wanted to, make a gated community, or I really want to make a sort of compound like the Kennedys are said to have, just because even though I hate those type of people, when I play the Sims games, I tend to create people like that. And they are horrible people too. I don't make them nice. But it is something that I'm hoping to do. I always wanted to make that giant interconnected place that is blocked out to everyone else, that you can do all sorts of things on. That, well, I'm going to do unsavory things probably. I'm planning on trying to do a vampires mod once I have any sort of access. So I might be doing some, hey, let's all just pass this person around and feed on them type thing. But it seems like a place for some dark gameplay if you're able to have that. So you either need to have a really huge lot, which I don't know what the lot size is, or you need to be able to put them one next to each other like that, and that would work as well. You also might be able to do something if you're able to edit, just add in fencing outside of the actual lots. That might be able to solve it as well, but we don't know what that maximum lot size is. We just know that we're able to edit it to some extent.
Allows players to create and edit pre-existing lots. This means any lot from the beach to the public buildings to the homes to the businesses that we provide you are editable, or you can create your own versions of all of these. The region editor tool allows you to move around all the lots in the game. So if you have a few you like and want to clump them together in a little neighborhood, that is fair game. If you're just tired of driving to work and don't want to anymore, you can move your office right next door. All the lots in our game were created using these lot editor tools, and I used the region editor to create the two neighborhoods that you'll see in game. And I'm most excited to see what players are going to do with the things that we give them as building blocks. And I'm especially excited to see what players will build from the ground up and make their own.
Thank you so much for that, Hannah. And I really love that she went into how the world really becomes your oyster here.
Yeah, I love our build tool. It's so much fun making all your little houses. And of course, you can place them wherever you like in the world. You can make businesses as well as homes. And also our world tool enables you to add people. And people talk. And we have full real language conversation in our game, which is pretty exciting.
And you can tell your own story. And let's hear about how you can tell your own story from senior game designer Gabriel. Throwing it to you, Gabriel.
Hey, I'm Gabriel.
Now I'm going to pause it right here, because first time I watched this, something just seemed off about Gabriel. Something a little bit different. And I'm wondering if anyone else has noticed this. Yes, he sort of has that baby face that makes him look like one of the babies with facial hair that people love throwing out maybe a decade ago, 2 decades ago. And it's not anything against him personally. I just think that that is something that once it's said, it's a lot easier to pay attention to what he's actually saying.
Gabriel, and I'm a senior game designer for Life by You. Throughout development, a lot of my focus has been on designing the gameplay for the conversation system. It's been a lot of fun to work with the team to create something that we feel is not only innovative, but fresh to the genre. So in Life by You, you can talk to anyone and anyone can talk to you. Conversations is one of the ways in which you can build relationships with the characters in your world. But what's really interesting about this...
Let's pause right there. Let's look at the text that was chosen. Ugh, I swear our landlord is the worst. Now, a lot of people were asking on Reddit, are you going to be able to rent houses? Now, even though it's been said that there are going to be apartments, That is something that you're going to be able to do, and it's about damn time that you're able to do that and build these things from the not just shells, you're not just jumping up to floor 51. You're going to be able to actually design an actual apartment building full of people. But the fact that there's a landlord before they've been able to show us that tells you are going to be able to rent houses. And that is something that apparently a lot of people want to do. They don't want to buy it right out, probably because it is super expensive and you're living in a pretty trashy place when you first start playing The Sims, unless you're using cheats. So yes, you are going to be able to rent this. At least that's what is being suggested by that being text in the game at this stage.
Feature is that all the conversations are being generated based off of your unique situation. So who you're talking to, where you're talking to them, and the type of relationship you have with that person, these are all getting factored into how that conversation unfolds. What this does is it creates a gameplay system that is emergent in storytelling and allows for no two conversations to ever be alike. There are countless choices and thousands of unique lines of written dialogue. So you really get to choose how you respond in any of these situations. Almost every choice will affect the relationship in some way. So whether you want to be flirty or
And looking at all these different options, one thing that strikes me is that these agents aren't going to be able to just walk up and immediately become your friends whether you want them to or not. And that's something that you can come into a problem with The Sims because it is so basic, it is Simlish. They're saying, oh, imagine this. You're not imagining it, and you know you're not imagining it. Now, let's say this person talks to me and they try to be my friend. I can just tell them, no, I hate you. You're disgusting just like your room. Blah, blah, blah. And actually, that's text that's coming up. That is one of the biggest improvements here. You're able to really control the agents and decide who they want to be friends with and who they don't. The other person may not agree to be your friend, but you don't have to agree to be theirs either.
friendly or antagonistic, you really have the ability to steer the conversation in the direction that you want to take it, as well as the relationship. One of my favorite things to do is to eavesdrop on the humans in the world. I've been working on this game for a while now, and I'm constantly surprised at the conversations that are happening uniquely in the world. I think this is going to open up a lot of opportunities for creative play and emergent storytelling. We really want you to be able to tell your own stories through this system, and we are just scratching the surface of what is possible. I can't wait to share more with you in the near future.
And what you really get from all this new thing is that they are exploring more. They're not satisfied with the minimum that people will accept. They could have come up with a nonsense language like Simlish and used it. Quite frankly, the way the copyright laws are, they probably could have literally used Simlish and gotten away with it. They want to try to push things further. They want to try out something new. Now, one thing that we do know about this that came out through interviews is there will be no audio. You are just looking at the text. That is the extent of it. I personally would like for there to be some sort of audio. I'd like for there to be a gibberish language, ideally accompanying this, so that you get the idea of the talking, get an idea of the people's voices. It's a lot easier when you're hearing that nonsense, but you have something actually to read on the screen there. I'm not imagining the whole thing, but I get that flavor. It's sort of subconsciously put in. I would be perfectly fine with the da-da-da-da-da-da that used to be used for RPGs when people are talking and they're talking slowly, so not all the text is there at once. I'd be fine with Charlie Brown adult voices, the wah, 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 wah. That would be perfectly fine to be going on with it. I'd like for there to be some sort of audio content to it. I don't need to be fully fleshed out. I think we're a good 5 years before even AI is going to be able to accurately read text and perform it. And that would, of course, cause a whole bunch of issues with the Voice Actors Guild. I don't know whether that would be a good thing or a bad thing, but that is something that might be possible maybe 5 years down the road That's obviously not available now, so they can't have something like that. But I would like to have some sort of audio element to assist. And they are not looking at doing that at the current moment. So if you agree with me, you may want to make your point known to them in the many ways that they mention that they are listening to people.
Thank you so much for that, Gabriel. That was really fun to watch.
I know. I love our conversation system, and I love the way it hooks into social relationships, how it really impacts gameplay.
Yeah.
So you can annoy people, you can develop friendships with them, but of course, because it's Life by You, we didn't want to stop with just our conversation.
not
We
at all.
went a step further.
Yeah, we want to see you modders. And there's actually a whole...
Oh, let's go back just one frame. Mom.
to see you modders.
You can see right there. You could see Rod's face. He is very much giddy about this. One thing that really needs to be stressed is that this is a passion project with a big budget behind it. This isn't there just to make money. This is the result, apparently, of a discussion that Rod had with his son. He asked his son, hey, what do you think I should do next? His son, I'm guessing, must be an adult at this point because he gave very sage advice and says, you want to ask yourself, what company do you want to work for? Go to them and ask, hey, what do you want me to make for you? What Rod actually did is he found the company he wanted to work for and he pitched this game. This is the game he wanted to make. He wanted to do the Sims 3 right. He didn't want to have a company like EA who are going to have such a low budget for development, spending all their money on advertising and media manipulation, to be able to actually develop the game properly. He found the right people and said, hey, I want to make this game. Let's make this work. And that is what this is going to be. This is his passion project. All these people are working on there. They're passionate about what they are doing on this project. And that very much differs from what you see in EA, what you have been seeing. You're not going to see the kind of uninspired, broken content that you saw with EA because these people are actually serious about doing it. And that is so different from what we have become used to when we deal with video games.
And there's actually a whole conversation creator, which let's throw it back to Gabriel for this because he's our resident expert on this. Back to you, Gabriel.
Hey, Gabriel here again, Senior Designer for Life by You. I was given the opportunity to help design the workflow for creating conversations using the conversation creator. We knew from the very beginning we wanted to create a real language conversation system, but it was an extremely ambitious idea. So we needed a tool that would allow us to create a lot of choices and dialogue quickly. But not just that, we wanted to be able to share that tool with the player. With the conversation creator, you can create your own dialogue and tell your own stories. The same tools that we're using to design the gameplay for conversations, we're making available to you, the player. You can edit existing lines of dialogue or create entirely new ones. For those of you who like to write and make a lot of dialogue options, we have a tool that allows you to bulk edit and import your content. And the best part is you get to share this with the community so people can play your stories. The dream has always been to collaborate with the player and to be inspired by what they make. The conversation creator is a powerful tool that's going to allow you to tell your own stories and share that with the community. I am beyond excited to see what the community creates and where they take this content.
Now, that's something to stress. Everything that you just saw there is editable, it is appendable, it is shareable. You are going to be seeing tons and tons of dialogue mods that allow people to create things exactly like they want it. I have definitely seen people state that they want to make dialects and they will sit there and work on it tirelessly, but they are passionate about that one thing and they want to work on it, and they are going to get, you're going to have that kind of content in just tons of it. You're going to be able to download it, put it in your game, and it's going to be available to you. This is really the Paradox mindset when it comes to modding. They're going to build a game. They're going to build a great game, but they're going to allow you to add on it, because no matter what you do, not everybody's going to agree with this or that. They want this. No, not enough people want it. They don't like the way this was done. Well, now you can change it, and you can make it work the way you wanted it to work. All this stuff is possible.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. I love feeling inspired by your own tool.
Me too, me too. I love our conversation tools. I love the fact that you can batch import, and I really love the drag and drop and the branching editor, so you can visually see it as you're crafting
what you're doing. Exactly.
And then you can share them with your friends.
Yeah.
Because we're the most moddable life sim.
Yeah.
Yes, you can tell. I mean, he's really rubbing it in. He wants to stress, we are the most moddable. You can do all this great stuff. He seems to really have an issue with EA as well. I do really get the impression that the fallbacks of The Sims 3 were because of EA and what they wanted to do with it. They wanted to make everything super monetized. They wanted to minimize development. He doesn't have to deal with that bullshit anymore. But more importantly, you could tell he really believes in what he's saying with the way that things move. It is not your Elon Musk infomercial bullshitting that people give all the time. If you ever watch an EA event, you could tell it's all produced and all that. That's not what we see here. We see him absolutely giddy. He can't control himself. He is proud to share what he is doing, his life vision, coming to fruition. And he's able to show you that this is what's happening. You have, Rocio. She's obviously you could tell where she's having fun, but she's much more your little work training video type, production value. Gabriel seems like he's fairly comfortable with the camera, but everyone else seems a little, or not, I shouldn't say everyone else, we've only seen one other person so far. But Hannah seems a little bit stiff. Then you're going to be seeing somebody coming up who looks like they really are not comfortable with the camera. They're like a deer in the headlights, and it's beautiful. And like I said before, one of the great things about this is that they aren't bullshitting you, because they are not there as media experts. They're not here. They're not specializing in being able to promote things. These are people who are passionate about what they do, and they're going in and doing the best they can. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of that stage fright. That is, I'm sure, not in the COO's job description, but it really gives you the sense of legitimacy of what's the word? Genuineness. It is genuine what we're seeing here, and I think this really gives you an idea of what to hope for the game, because these are people who are passionate about what they're doing. They're not there just to milk every last dollar out of you like EA is.
Exactly, and we don't just stop at conversations, which is one thing I appreciate. You can actually edit objects in our game, and let's actually throw it to Hannah again. She's going to talk us through our object editor. Back to you, Hannah.
Hey, it's Hannah again, and now let's talk about the object editor tool. You can add, change, or attach functionality to any of the objects in-game with this tool. If you want to go deep with it, you can create your own scripts with the script editor.
And so let's talk a little bit about what we're looking at here. Now, I want to point out they're going to be modding something to act as a bathroom. That is what I want to see modded as a bathroom. I want to have people be able to walk around and use the toilet. Or use the trash cans as toilets. I think it'd be funny, especially because you have this interaction up here. Rummage in trash. Imagine if it had all just been used as the bathroom. Somebody goes, rummages in it. I see comical consequences coming from that. It's okay because it's not real. There's no one actually being forced to go through that. This is all faked. It's all simulated. These simulations are not sentient. It is funny. We also want to note that there is a rate of needs increase down here. You have plus, minus, that is obviously to add or subtract needs that is increasing, or ultimately I'm sure some will decrease, but the plus is adding a need to that list, in which you're going to have something else pop up here. The negative is going to delete that need when you're editing it, so you can't get that need increased or decreased from that. You also have the option to practice skill. So that is what you're going to be able to do, and you can make the trash can add your fitness if you really wanted to. Assuming it has to do with, it has to do with the particular option up here. So rummaging the trash doesn't add any skill. Putting away the trash, maybe you could give it a slight boost to fitness or something like that. Or maybe organization. There's different things that you possibly could do with that. At the very top, you also have tabs. So you have the objects. This is editing the objects themselves. You have scripts. So this is where you're going to be able to do some stuff with the script editor, I'm sure. Take those scripts, plug them in. Then you have progression. I have no idea what progression is. Maybe that has to do with objects turning from one to another, such as you plant a plant, you get the little seedling, sproutling, whatever you call it. It's going to go up, and you're going to have, a small plant, then it's going to become a big plant. That's something I can see with progression. But what it's going to be done for other things, or if I'm even correct there, I'm not 100% sure, because they're not showing us that yet. But that's interesting. And let's try to get to where we have a little bit of one frame, which gives us a little bit of preview of something exciting.
And add those onto objects. If you just want to mess around and break the rules a little bit, you can do so. An example of this would be if you...
Okay, went a little bit by, marked the timing wrong. But if we go just a little bit, okay. Yep, just one less. Like I said, it's one frame. It's hard to get that one frame. But there's a few things. I don't think you see it there. Maybe I went too far. Bar top you do see, which is one of the things I wanted to point out. Let's see if I can stop it just right.
An example.
It's going so fast. If you go dig through it, you might be able to get that one frame where you see also beer tap. And the thing about beer tap, with the bar top, we're looking at actual alcohol. We're not looking at anything we're not looking at having juice. We're not looking at having nectar. This is made for an adult audience. That is part of why this little specialization is good. You don't have to be playing the same game as your kids. Your kids can play Paralyzed, have fun with the kid cartoon world, while you go off and have your adult life simulation dealing with adult topics. There's also one that said change into work uniform that I had saw. Oh, so it is here on this screen here. And what I'm thinking right there, if you want to add superheroes, you can mod a phone booth. You can make it like Superman or Underdog, I think, did the exact same thing. Run into a phone booth, change into your work uniform, being a superhero, and run out and save the day. That could be a fun mod that somebody can work on. Or it could be fun custom fun DLC if no one does do it. Paradox can do it down the line. But you do have a lot of fun stuff in here, and if you really dig into it, trust me, there is somewhere where it says beer tap.
This would be if you want to use a flower bush as a toilet. You can just move those toilet interactions onto that flower bush using this editor, and then you've got a flower bush toilet. We use these editors to create everything in the base game, and we wanted to make all the tools available to us as designers available to you as players. We'll be showing off more creator tools in the coming months, including a model editor that will allow you to change the look and feel of some of these objects.
Thank you so much for that, Hannah. The flower bush toilet gets me every time.
It's pretty funny. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that members of our community will come up with even more amusing
Absolutely.
gameplay modifiers. What's great about it is every 3D object that you see, you can entirely modify.
Yep.
You can use our visual scripting language, and you can add your own gameplay. In fact, we are shipping with the game all of the tools built into the game that we use
Yeah.
on the dev team to make the game, including the quest editor. We've got the skill editor.
Okay.
He's, of course, getting excited. I don't know if that was a scripted moment or not. I kind of get from Rozio it may be scripted. But it is really important that they are giving all those tools. That is something that you will not see EA do, because EA does not want competition. They don't want people making mods for stuff and putting in pets beforehand, and then they can't sell a DLC. This is something that they can do here. Imagine a lot of the modders are going to be doing stuff absolutely free nonetheless. So you may have a bunch of things that will get to you early. You have a much larger development team because you have modders there. These are people who also are going to be passionate about this game, who want to make it better, want to add features. These are things that they want to see in their games, and it's going to get added in by that. And they are making it possible by giving all of those tools. So everything, you want that sickness system that they took out because they're worried about COVID, you can use those same mod tools, add it back in. You're going to be able to have sicknesses. You're going to be able to have people die by being stabbed in the chest, or being burnt to death, or they got scared to death by a ghost, or whatever type of thing you want. I know I want to have my vampires able to, on option, drain somebody totally and kill them. That is something that I want to mod in that's going to have that sort of mechanic. That's not in there now, but I should be able to do it with all those mod tools. I haven't seen anything mentioning animations, but that's got to be in there somewhere, because they know that we need to be able to have these procedural animations in order to do it. That's in their creator suite. Somewhere, one of those things I mentioned before must have the animations built into it. I just don't know what it is yet. They're going to tell us eventually how we make these animations. And I think it'll be really fun being able to do these procedural animations with people with different height sliders and all that. That is something that is going to be exciting.
Okay.
We got a lot.
Don't worry, we're going to show you a bunch of these editors in the future. We really only scratched the surface. We hope to give you all of the tools to basically run free, and be as creative as you need to be.
Yeah, we just want to give you the keys to your creative world and to express yourself with the freedom however you like.
Yeah, and definitely stay tuned for more information about all of this. We're looking out for our mod community, and we're so excited to share more. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for. How can you get Life by You?
Life by You is available for pre-order now on the Epic Game Store. If you pre-order, you gain our Life Begins pack, which includes a vintage scooter that you can customize any way you like, a fashion pack, a decor pack. You get the full version of the game when it's released, and you gain early access later this year.
Now, when we're looking at that, September 12th, of course, that's coming fairly soon. We're looking at 5 months at this point. It was more 6 months when this actually came out. I have no idea if you would still have the chance of being one of the first 100K people to pre-order. I ordered 5 days after this, and I have no idea if I'm on it or not. And that's the only reason I did pre-order on Epic, because I would have easily pre-ordered on Steam. Apparently Steam will not allow them to have a pre-order for an early access. That's not allowed on Steam. I much would have preferred it because I have all my Paradox games on Steam. I have a whole bunch of other games on Steam. I don't want to mess with Epic if I don't have to. Myself, I may very well buy a second copy of the game as long as I get that 100K. If I'm one of those first 100K and get access to the Discord, that's why I went on. Decor pack and all that, if those are the items there, they're not all that exciting, so I'd be fine not having that. That's not a problem. But I do much like that I had everything on Steam. Steam seems to work well. I don't want to have everything mixed up everywhere. And maybe that's a bad thing because that means I'm just digging myself in the way I once did with EA. I don't want that again. Let's hope that the Epic thing is easy and I'm still able to access things like the Steam Workshop, where probably a lot of those mods are going to be put on. They definitely got some flack from people. They don't like the idea that they gave the pre-order bonuses like that, because that's often considered cash grabby. It is misused sometimes. I don't think we're going to be having a problem with the cash grab from Paradox because that's not their style. They actually have a long reputation of not being cash grabby. They actually, with their DLCs, make something significant, and their base game is a fully fleshed out game worthy of release at the price that they offer it at. I do want to mention that, but I'm not too swayed that it's such a horrible thing that they did it this way. That's perfectly fine. We're going to now move on. I'm going to show you some stuff with the Crusader King characters, so you know what Paradox already has. This is stuff that they can access. They may be able to borrow somebody who did it from Crusader Kings to help them do it here, if they haven't already done that, or if they even need that sort of help at all. But you're going to get an idea of what the graphics very well, I would put at a bare minimum of what the quality of graphics would be, as well as the possibility of gradual aging. Alright, so we're looking at Crusader Kings 3. And let's see here. Zoom in. Where are we going to create our person? Well, let's just go show the wide area that this does cover. And just for fun, let's go create somebody here. Go in. I'm going to create my own ruler. And here we go. We have somebody random that falls into, they're Islamic, they're Arabic, etc., etc. You see the graphical quality is a lot higher than you're looking at in the current build of Life by You. Let me promise you, they are not going to let Crusader Kings 3 have higher graphical quality than Life by You, that focuses on the actual characters, the environments, a whole lot more. But you get it right now. It's at a random sexual orientation. I can go pick what I want. Here we can go with bisexual, and pick a random name there. But actually, we change the culture. Since I just went to Palestine, let's go put an Ashkenazi ruler. There, it's really weird names. You're not looking at, names that you would expect, Rebecca or Rachel or something like that. Those seem to be more modern creations, I'm guessing. Yes, Yehudis, which I don't know. I don't think there are people still named that very often today, but we're going to go in and change the appearance. Recording site see here. And this is the base information that we have. They are still generally crafted Ashkenazi. They do look like that. You see how it's switched. It's going to have this little robe on the entire time while we're doing customer character creation. However, it does change over over time. Once you're actually out of here, they actually have clothes. You can have to take them off. That is an option right from the beginning. This doesn't... I never figured out what body fat actually changes, but you can change the bust size all you want. You can change the height. So you have your height slider. We can change skin color however we want. And so when you're going in, you click on her head and neck. You can change that too. Ears has a bunch of options. Facial structure. And here you can see it scrolls down. A bunch of stuff that you can do. You have eyes that you can change, including the color. And it's not just the standard. You can, change all different shades of blue, green, brown. Red doesn't seem to work quite right. That looks more brown to me, but it's there. We have, of course, nose features, mouth features. And I always love to do with this, open the mouth wide, and actually make it a little bit wider. So you're going to be able to see what I'm going to do, because this is a mod. There, hairstyle we can change all we want. Bunch of different choices. And this is not what is expected to stay there. This is not quite the same thing as you're looking at we'd be expecting for Life by You, because Life by You is going to have a whole lot more hair options, I'm sure. This is, something that is less character-based than Life by You is going to be. But let's just go there. She looks hideous in this case, but that doesn't matter because we're just showing options. Now, we were talking about age. I can go take her. Oh, you have her as a little girl. She's gradually growing up and becoming, there she is at 23, 25, becoming an old woman, shrinking down. This is age progression that we finally see here. We can change her weight. She can be really big, she can be really thin, and obviously malnourished. You get to pick her education trait at this point. It's using up customization points, but you can go over. You get to pick which traits she has here for her personality. Let's go make her lustful, temperate, and generous. These are green because her religion, which is still Islamic right now, says these are good. Gluttonous and greedy are bad. They're for, she would lose piety having those. You don't want a good Muslim to be gluttonous or greedy. Then we get into other traits, and you have a lot of things that, a lot of this can be earned over time. Some of it can't. Make her a miracle worker. These are, things that are, sort of bad, dealing with stress type things. So we'll make her drunk. See how she gets the redness in the face. She's irritable and a comfort eater. Okay. Shooting down. You can give her all these horrible things. Make her gout ridden. Give her smallpox. Make her one-eyed. Oh, yeah, that is horrifying. But we can also, on the other end, change some genetics here. Let's make her beautiful. That changed a lot of the things that I made that was bad. But I still want that open mouth. That's one thing that I don't want, so we're not going to use the beauty traits, because that will make her more average looking. And it really does go towards the average. All the beautiful people and all the different races all pretty much look the same. And it's basically all the sliders being put towards average. But we'll make her genius and Herculean, so she's bulky. Throw some stuff there. You can make her a hunchback. You can make her a dwarf and she shrinks down. I don't really want that right now, but it's things that you can do. You can make her scaly, so you see the scales there. I can't zoom in to show greater detail. To all these different traits all have game mechanics related to them. And you can see I went over the limit. You're allowed to go over the limit. They're not going to punish you for that. You play the game the way you want. But, oh, there's the mod. We can make her a vampire. And you can't really see from here, but we'll change her appearance again. Go into the mouth. Customize further. And you can see it there, even though it's kind of blocked out by all the horrible things I put in there just for showing. And boom. You can edit the skills, add those up. And if you're seeing this in this game, you're going to be able to see that elsewhere. And it did not change her outfit. I've never seen that happen before. She got a headpiece, but nothing with there. Maybe because I gave her disease traits. I don't normally do that. Start. And of course, oh, it does have an actual outfit. But with that, I am going to go quickly cheat. Give a whole bunch of PD. That'll allow me to create my own new Islamic faith. Alright, so we jump down here. And you can see all the things that can change. But very notably, here are the crime doctrines. To show you what I want to show you, I don't really need to do that. It's going to go in here, and I'm probably not allowed to show otherwise, because it's going to make people naked. So we're just going to show you on here. Natural primitivism, adherents do not wear clothes. And this would actually, you know, she's one of those. Because she's over 18, she's going to strip off all her clothes, and you just have a little fig leaf there. So this is what you can do in Crusader Kings 3. And since this is also made by Paradox, you can use that to give an idea of what you can expect from Life by You to be the bare minimum of what you can expect. So you don't worry about the graphics not being that great now. They're going to get better. And let's move on to our next thing. So now we're back to our still photo of their promotional picture. And so let's talk about what we need to expect as far as how this game is going to work when it comes out. We've gone through features of what's been shown so far. One thing we want to stress, and Rod Humble has been very adamant about this on interviews, you need to take the system requirements seriously. So let's go over what you're looking at there. It requires a 64-bit processor and operating system. You need at least Windows 10. I don't think it's being released for Mac up front. Your processor has to be as good as an Intel Core i5-8600 or an AMD Ryzen 5 2600. Memory has to be 16 gigabytes of RAM. Your graphics card needs to be NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960 4 gigabyte or better, or AMD Radeon R9 380 4 gigabyte or better. DirectX needs to be updated to version 11. And you need at least 25 gigabytes of available space, which that should be the easy part. It is higher. I know that I have to upgrade mine. My system requirements right now, I only have a Ryzen 3, for example. I am going to be going up to, I think, a Ryzen 9. With what I'm ordering, it's going to cost me $2,000 being custom built by a local PC shop. This is going to be a high-grade thing that I'm buying. I think it's comparable to $2,500 ones out of the box. If you are worried about being able to play the game because your system's not good enough, accessibility to it is an actual issue here. You have the playoff of, do I want to bring the game down Or do I want to make it less accessible? It's going to require more than The Sims. Sims 4 was built to be online. They backed out at the last minute. I've seen videos on that, very compelling. You saw the code where it's definitely Olympus is built in. I have no doubt in my mind. I don't believe EA, whatever they say. The Sims 4 was supposed to be online. They backed out. It's no longer multiplayer. But that is why you have those low system requirements. They want everybody to jump in. They want that huge player base, and they don't want to eat up time because of lag and stuff like that. That was easy. Sims 5 is going to be the same way. It's multiplayer. You're going to have those easier systems requirements. You're not going to need as much to run it as you're going to need for this game. This game is going to be top notch. Those graphics are going to be sparkling. That's why you need those very high level equipment, or higher level equipment. With that said, you don't need as high as I went. And if you want to afford it, you don't have the computer right now, go contact your local PC repair shop. They apparently, it might be hard in rural areas, but if you're in a suburban or urban area, there's going to be a shop that handles PCs, to build custom PCs. And they're going to do it for a lot cheaper than you'd be able to get out. You can go say, hey, I need these minimum requirements. What is the best price you can give me? They will find the pieces and say, hey, this is what I can do. This is what I will charge. And you can see if that's affordable. You're probably looking at something, my guess is $1,000 to $1,200 to meet that price. I may be way off. It may be less than that. It may be more than that. But it's not going to be at my level where I'm going to be paying $2,000 for a machine. So do keep that in mind. Even if you don't have the machine now, you might be able to afford it. And unlike going with The Sims, which is going to have a whole bunch of broken, buggy DLC, that's going to cost you more than that PC in the end. You're going to have a nice PC that's going to last a while, and you're going to be able to play a lot of good games other than this that aren't coming out yet. So that is something to keep in mind when you're moving forward. Now, as far as what it's going to be like when we have that early access, here is what I've noticed from Paradox Games, at least two of them that I've seen recently launch. Crusader Kings 3 that we saw there, which definitely wasn't lagging on my end. I'm not sure with the video capture if it'll look like it was lagging at all over there. And Victoria 3. Both of those, when they launched, they were laggy. They were very, very laggy at first. They were able to go, and within a month and a half, I think, for Victoria, they had it patched, all fixed up. They got the data they needed, and they were able to make it work properly. You don't have all that lag. It runs beautifully at that point. So you may see for the first month, September 12th rolls around, Life by You might be laggy at that point if it's following the pattern of the other Paradox games. But they're not EA. They're going to fix it. That is their priority. When this thing first comes out, any sort of systems and compatibility, if you're meeting those minimum requirements, they're going to make sure they have that game working properly for you. So if it's laggy on September 12th, I'm not going to be all that shocked. If it's laggy on November 12th, 2 months later, I will be floored. I would have some of my face shaken in Paradox if 2 months later that lag was still there. They are going to get it running. They are going to get it running properly. That is my experience with Paradox. And I do want to make sure people aren't all of a sudden shocked if it is laggy on September 12th, because Paradox games recently have gone out there. When I have mentioned that, I had somebody else come on and say, yes, they're all like that recently, more than just the two I mentioned that I've seen. They all come out laggy, but they do fix it very fast for all their titles. So you don't need to worry that that's going to be a long time thing, but don't be shocked if it happens when you first start it. Now, what I want to see for the long term of the life simulation market, EA has done the worst of the worst. They've won, I believe, the most hated company 3 times because of how nasty they are. And they did that in, I believe it was 2012, going up against Bank of America. That's about the time that Bank of America had evicted somebody from their home, thrown out all their stuff, and it wasn't only the wrong house, that person had no mortgage whatsoever. And when they went to court, Bank of America was arguing that they shouldn't have to pay the full price of replacing things that they broke into somebody's house and stole from them, because that wouldn't be fair to them. It wouldn't be efficient for their business model. That is what they were up against, and they were still the worst company compared to them. EA is something that needs to die. It's something that the investors need to feel the wrath of, because that is going to send ripples throughout the entire industry, saying, you can't act like this. It's going to come back. It's going to bite you. And you're going to see a lot of other creators like 2K putting a lot more effort, putting a lot less interest in immediate profit, because it's not worth it if the investors are going to lose in the long term. And so that is the ideal. I don't know if The Sims alone is going to take it down, because they still have Madden and stuff like that, but those are buggy. And hey, if The Sims goes down, maybe those players will say, you know what? We also want to go. Maybe the NFL is going to say, hey, you no longer have an exclusive contract. We're going to let others into this market because EA is not the person we want to have an exclusive contract with us. That is something that could be very powerful. So a lot of people are saying they want as much competition as possible. That's great. And yes, that's generally the way you want to go. You don't want competitors leaving because they're able to put that pressure on and move everyone up. But EA is a special case. Now, Paradox, they have, as far as I'm concerned, a monopoly with most of their grand strategy games. You looked at Crusader Kings 3. If I'm looking for something that's comparable, the next closest thing that I'm aware of, and it's possible I'm not aware of some things, but it's going to be other Paradox games. It's going to be Europa Universalis or Victoria or Iron Hearts or is it Hearts of Iron? I never actually played that game. But those are going to be the games that are going to be similar to that, and still, you don't see any of that sort of activity with Paradox that you did have with EA. But you're also going to have other competitors who are already working to come in the market, and I think they will end up getting there. So you're going to have Paralives come in, you're going to have Viva Land come in, you're probably going to have 3 or 4 different places that are coming up. I think you see a lot because of the crowdsourcing is a real thing now that wasn't there when Sims 4 first came out. It's something that people are able to actually work on and make and really get some results with. They're going to be able to create a game I think they're going to be able to release. They will be competition for Paradox, and once they're out, that's that. This game isn't meant for kids anyways. Ideally, I'd love to see Paralives take the child market. That's your default child sim. This would be the default adult sim. And then Viva Land, since that's based around multiplayer, that is something that would be good for people who insist on multiplayer. It's going to give them, from what I've seen, everything they could possibly want with multiplayer, and it'll be there until they realize why multiplayer is such a horrible, horrible idea, and they'll come to Life by You or Paralives. Because, literally, they said every single household's going to be played by a real person, and when you have that, guess what? you're going to end up with ghost towns. Nobody's going to be there at a certain time. You have players who stop playing or maybe go away because they have to study for finals. You're not going to see, you're going to have your next door neighbor just gone for a month at a time. It's going to get boring. People are not going to like it, and it's going to fade away. Good, but you had the shot. And if they prove me wrong, they prove me wrong. But I really don't like the idea of I think multiplayer has been overdone to hell. That was something that was great when you had your console and you're sitting with your friends in your living room or den, I think is where we usually played it. And you were able to play with them because those are your friends. They're here, they're with you. You're enjoying it. You don't have anyone sitting out. That's what multiplayer is for. It's not to go play with random people who do nothing but play that and learn how to abuse every system in the game to do better, which is what you see with online play. I've never been into online multiplayer at all. But even with that said, some people may very well go for it. And hats off to them. We'll see other people come in, but EA itself needs to die. It needs to feel the wrath of the market. People, when they're second that they're given options, need to say, no, I'm not going to spend another dollar on EA. I can get better content elsewhere. Let you be an example. Let you be something that's taught in business classes for a century to come on how not to run your business. Because when you are that overly greedy, people do not want to deal with you. And that's something that really, really needs to be taught, especially as the free market has just gotten so out of whack. I'm sure we all remember times, or maybe some of the younger ones don't, when games were released and they were fully fleshed out. They were actually operational. They weren't full of bugs. That is something that is of the past at this point. And Paradox is trying their best not to do it. They do a fairly good job. I'd say the best job of any company I've seen in the current market. But it is of a past era where you see that, and it's not natural. It does come down to the way the market is run. Companies being greedy. It's not the programmers making the money. The people who actually do the work. It is the people at the top. It is the investors who are spending money and saying, hey, we need a CEO who's going to milk every last dollar, make every last dollar they can, take it from them. I don't care. We don't respect them. They're not us. That is something that we need to end. And the only way to end is to actually have there be consequences. EA has been like this for decades. It is time to have a reckoning. And that reckoning should come by people refusing to buy The Sims 5 when it comes out. I want to see sales. They sold 100 copies, and those are all things that the employees bought for their family. That is what I want to see. I want to see the studio fold. I want to see them out of the life sim market. And I want to see them start to see the repercussions in their other titles that are making them money. I want to see competition come out where people are making an NHL game. Right now, there is no exclusive contract to EA. Just their only competitor was 2K, and they left the market like a decade ago. 2K needs to go back in, compete there. Other companies need to start up and compete there. And just start with a basic hockey simulator. Force the players to actually, create custom rosters that are the actual NHL players, so you don't have the legal liability. Go ahead and do that and compete. Make something that makes EA have to actually do good and hopefully even die out. because there needs to be those repercussions when you act as a bad actor for that long. Well, thank you, and I'm going to say hit like if you like this. I'm going to warn you before you subscribe. This is not the usual content I intend to be putting out. Hit subscribe if you want to be hit up with a bunch of stuff about political science. If you want to learn about the ideology, the philosophy behind democracy, if you want to learn about the philosophies of Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, if you want to understand how the American electoral system was built up, that is what I'm going to be focusing on in the near future. That is what I was intending to go into YouTube in order to create. It is going to be a full discussion meant for people who are going through AP government or people who are taking Intro to American Government in college. Some people who may just want some refresher or hear some stuff that is related to it, and it is going to be more in-depth, not things that people are necessarily going to have to remember everything of. They're, of course, not going to be tested. If you're interested in that, hit subscribe. If you're looking for more stuff like this, it'll probably be few and far in between. Thank you.